Replacing the insulation. The task force says no. Judge Fallon and we agree that it really needs to come out during the demolition process. You're going to be damaging like the block alfoil. You're also going to have dust all over all of your insulation, and that's just not acceptable, and it's impossible to clean, and it's also not a very expensive item. So from a cost standpoint, it makes much more sense just to take it out and replace it. Replace all the copper plumbing in the house. The task force says no. Judge Fallon actually has come back and said yes, and we actually agree with the task force that it's really not necessary. Once you take your drywall down, you can inspect all of your copper plumbing and make a determination, is there any substantial pitting? If there isn't substantial pitting and you're only dealing with corrosion, you can use a cleaner like a Tarnex just to clean it off and move forward. If it isn't pitted and structurally there's nothing wrong with it, there's really no reason to change it out. Replace toilets, faucets, sinks, shower enclosures, etc. Task force says no. Judge Fallon says yes. We definitely say no. The idea of throwing out an entire toilet because it may have some components which are affected is a really expensive and inefficient thing to do. We've typically found that the toilet guts don't even need to be replaced because I can't explain why, but typically they don't show a lot of tarnish on them at all. So reuse the toilets. If the faucets don't show a lot of pitting or anything, reuse the faucets. Reuse your sinks. And the shower enclosures are extremely expensive, and if to me it just doesn't make sense that you would take those and just throw them in the garbage. So we reuse all of those. And shower enclosures are easy actually to reuse. Replace the water heaters. Task force says no. Judge Fallon doesn't specify, and we say no on that too. You can reuse those. Replace hardwood or vinyl flooring. Task force no. Judge Fallon says yes, and we say no, absolutely not. This is what Judge Fallon says. The practical evidence further revealed that attempting to gently remove, store, or clean or protect carpet, cabinetry, trim work or baseboards, or flooring is not feasible or cost effective. That's hard for us to understand, because if you have a home that has $20,000, $30,000 in wood flooring in it, it is fairly straightforward to protect it with a layer of 6mm visqueen, masonite, and visqueen on top of that, and protect the floor during the entire process. Is it possible that it's going to get some scratches on it and some things like that? Yes, that's possible, but that's a heck of a lot more efficient way to spend your dollars than to tear it all up and spend another $30,000 for new wood. So we say yes, in most all cases you can reuse hardwood. Vinyl flooring, we don't deal with it a lot, but in the case of vinyl flooring, that's kind of a no-brainer. You just, you tear that out and start over. Next issue is replace the floor tile. Everybody says, no, you don't really have to replace the floor tile. Replace carpeting for all practical purposes. Yes, everyone agrees it's got to come out. Replacing cabinets. Task force says no. Judge Fallon says yes, and we say no, absolutely. I mean, if these dollars are coming out of your own pocket, once again, you've probably got $20,000 to $35,000 or more in cabinetry in your home, and they're simply assembled components. They can be taken apart. Granite can be taken off. Is it possible that a granite piece could crack? Yes. We've had it happen both ways, where we can get an entire kitchen out and it doesn't crack, and we've had it where we do get it cracked. But it doesn't mean you should discard the entirety of the granite. There's really no good reason for that. Same thing with the cabinetry. The cabinets can come out, and they're so very expensive that it's very hard to justify that you would just throw them away instead of throwing them into storage and reusing them. Now, some people are concerned with the possibility of cross-contamination, and they're concerned with that if they're keeping their hardwood, if they're keeping their cabinets, etc. The thing that we always talk about is all of those things, whether it be the cabinets, your trim wood, which we'll get to, these types of things. How are they different than the studs that are going to remain in your home? The studs that were in direct contact with the Chinese drywall. If we're talking in terms of contamination, those items are really no different than what's staying in the home, whether it be the studs, whether it be the concrete block. So if you're off-gassing your home for 30 days before you're starting construction back up, from the time that you remove all the drywall until you get new drywall installed is at least 60 days, more than that. And same thing with your cabinets and any of these other things that you take out and reuse. They have that period of time, 60, 90 days, to be off-gassing whatever cross-contamination they were experiencing. So that's how we always look at it. Replacing the countertops, absolutely. If you got granite countertops, we want to try to reuse them. Replace the wood trim, which would be your base molding, your door casing, that kind of stuff. This one we're kind of on the fence on. The task force says no. Judge Fallon says yes. We're in the middle of experimenting on a home right now, which is about 3,500 square feet. It was loaded with crown molding and decorative moldings, and we decided to try to reuse it. We'll know in about 2 weeks here. We'll be doing another separate video on this, if this worked or not. There's a fair amount of labor involved, and it does require some attention, but I think in the end it's going to be well worth it. It certainly is a more environmentally friendly way to do it, rather than taking all of that trim out of the home and throwing it in a dumpster. If you can reuse a good portion of it, I think that does make good sense. Replacing shelving, closet systems, etc. Now the task force says, you can reuse them. Judge Fallon, again, on the other end of the spectrum, says yes, and we say no, you can certainly reuse them. HEPA vacuum required. Let's get back down to where we are here. The task force actually regards all of the cleanup process more like just a regular demolition and cleanup. So they say that HEPA vacuums aren't required. Judge Fallon says yes, they are, and we agree. What we do is we go through and clean the entire property. We get everything so that there's not a chunk of drywall anywhere in there. We run regular shop vacs through there and run them and run them and run them, and then we run HEPA vacs through to make sure that the home is completely clean. Wet wipe, mop, or power wash studs. Yes, we're all in agreement that once the home is then completely cleaned, then you have to do a wipe down of any existing residue that's on studs, flooring, all those areas. Spray the home with oxine or strong bleach. The task force says yes for this. They actually do talk about it. It's not mentioned in Judge Fallon at all. And then we actually do suggest that they say strong bleach because this is a home. We just suggest using a household bleach. And the idea is just to prevent any contamination, work on any sulfur odors that may still be there. And then air out period, the task force doesn't specify. This is the period after you've removed everything from the home. All the drywall is out, everything is completely cleaned, and then you let it sit for a period of time to off-gas any potential cross-contamination before you start back up. Task force doesn't talk about it. Judge Fallon says 15 to 30, and we like to do 30 days. We think that makes good sense. So that is the very specific rundown of the two primary protocols and then what our recommendations are to those. The highlights that you see right now are those things that the two protocols agree with. So, what you see as a homeowner is that there is a fair amount of difference between the two protocols. And that means that, as the homeowner, along with recommendations from your builder, from your attorney, from your environmental consultant, you'll have some decisions to do within this to make sure that you're doing the best thing for your home. And that's about it. So what we'll do is we'll post a blog, and this document will be on there if you're interested in receiving it. In the next videos, we're going to be spending more time out in the field and dealing with specific issues out there, like the issue of taking out the cabinets, reusing the trim, the crown molding, etc. So until next time, this is Eric with Charter Bay Home Builders.